Fernanda from Hitchhiking Stars, taking you on a journey through the lunar cycles and astrological symbolism to see what are the energies, how can we take a ride with these energies in the best way possible, make the most of it and grow with it. So what we're going to be looking at today is the coming full moon happening on the 7th of March 2023. So this is a full moon at 16 degrees Virgo. So 16 degrees Virgo, as if you've heard my other videos, if you're following it a little bit already, you know how much I like to look into the Sabian symbols and the imagery of the Sabian symbols. So 16 Virgo is the image is a volcanic eruption bringing dust clouds, flowing lava, earth rumblings. So there's this with that specific degree of Virgo, there is this sense of a cathartic release of some kind of something coming up to the surface as well. I think that volcanic eruption is like the center of the earth, right? That lava, that fire that's in center, coming up to the surface and being revealed, and so we can have the awareness of what's going on deep inside us. So it's a kind of an unusual symbolism compared to what we would traditionally think about Virgo. But what we can do with the symbolism of this sort of volcanic explosion is to apply that to Virgo. So what are the flavors that Virgo usually reflects? And Virgo is about being effective, right? Doing things like being like the best we can be so we can serve. I think one of the key words of Virgo as well as Pisces is service. So in order for us to serve, we have to be on our best, and that's where all of the other things of Virgo kind of come to place as well. So routines, diets, exercises. I think the word here as well is daily rituals, because Pisces also talks about our daily spiritual practices, and Virgo will be talking about our daily rituals. So you wake up, what do you do first? Do you go in the bathroom and wash your face? Do you drink a glass of water? Do you drink a warm glass of water with lemon? Or so all of those little daily rituals will be reflected by Virgo. And how much they do, how well they do, how good they do for us to be able to serve and be the best that we can be in the world. So there is this service sort of flavor under the spotlight here. And I think the volcanic imagery that I just mentioned with the Sabian symbol could be applied to that, to what's not working in our routines. What are we doing? What are the habits that we kind of adopted that do not support the life that we can have, the life that we want to have, the service that we want to provide as well? So it's a very health conscious full moon. We could really become very aware of like gluten not being great, or cheeses and diets that we really don't want to continue doing, or things or exaggerations that we may have that may have had an impact on us if we've been drinking, and partying and seeing too many people. And so that full moon will be like a volcanic sort of something will erupt from within us that will show us how much we actually need to purify ourselves. I think purification is a word that I usually connect with Virgo as well. Purifying our routines, purifying our minds as well. And again, like our thoughts could be very much connected with this eruption as well. Virgo is Mercury ruled. It has that like rational feeling to it, even though it's an earth sign. So it could also be thought patterns that are poisonous, that we become more aware of as well, that are intervening with our ability to serve, with our ability to be in the world as well. So I think this is very much what's going to be under the spotlight when we think about the Virgo and the Pisces. And as I look into the full moon chart as well, I have it right in front of me, the imagery of the volcano gets even more interesting, because there is a kind of a unique energy in this full moon as well, because we have both planet Pluto, and I know some people, some say that Pluto isn't a planet anymore, as a dwarf planet, but it doesn't matter. For us in astrology, Pluto is still very much considered a planet. So Pluto is a 29 degrees 39 minutes of arc in Capricorn, so it's the very last degree of Capricorn. And so is Saturn. So Saturn is at 59 minutes of arc in Aquarius. So we have these two forces, and they're the very last degree as well when we have this full moon. And I think this also symbolizes something important, with this idea of the volcano erupting as something coming to our awareness, like we're becoming aware of something, we're seeing something, we're about to shift with these planets shifting as well, and there's like a collective shift that we're doing. It's been very interesting to see a lot of talk about UFOs and AI and a lot of the things that I see as very important and will become even more talked about when Pluto moves to Aquarius. But nature as well, and climate as well, and so many things that will become very under the spotlight there for us as Pluto travels Aquarius for many years. But the interesting thing that I want to focus now is this sense of a like we're like on the edge with this full moon. Like the energy of this full moon brings something to the surface, and there is this sort of edgy energy with that Saturn and Pluto. It's like something is about to change. Something is about to change big time. So how can we facilitate this change? How can we make it happen as well for ourselves? How can we help? How can we facilitate this in our lives, in our personal roles as well? And with this full moon in Virgo, has got to do with something around service, around our roles, around being useful. How can we be useful to this transformation, to this transition? And it has to do with our personal lives as well, with our own roles in our lives, and how we lead our lives, how we organize our daily lives, our daily routines. That's something that will be very much under the spotlight there. I love to see the full moons as this sort of like big sudden clarity as well. I think clarity is another word here. It's like we become very clear about something or a situation. So sometimes we might have like heightened emotions, or a situation that's very intense or intensifies in some way. We have to move out from our house, and it intensifies. Our relationship with our landlords intensifies, or something becomes very intense. And what I see around is like, some of us going, oh God, when is this gonna end? How long until we're feeling normal again? But if we think about astrology as opportunities and astrological transits as opportunities, I think one of the big opportunities of a full moon is to be able to see. It really shows you these different things that I'm talking about. So this edgy energy that's about to transition, the sort of Virgoan themes as well that I just talked about, like all these things will become very much on our faces. So is a great time for us to become very aware of something, and to set intentions as well and changes around that. Like anything that you've been wanting to do that you didn't feel you could do, this full moon could be great for it, like especially on all of those Virgo themes that I just talked about. With that said as well, so we have that Pluto, we have that Saturn about to change, and so this sense of eruption of the volcano is also highlighted by that, those two big planets, those two giants about to shift as well, and shift something very, very collective for us. But also there is a strong emphasis in Pisces during this full moon, because Mercury, the ruler of the moon, is in Pisces. So it could highlight psychic abilities, psychic energies during this full moon, to do spiritual rituals there, to get the information that we need to get the vision, to envision what kind of routines, what kind of, like, how do we want to serve? How do we, okay, so this question is great. How do we want to serve humanity during this massive transitional moment? And Mars will be great as a very key point when Pluto and Saturn will change signs. So keep your eyes peeled there, see what you feel, what's happening around you. But like during this full moon, it's great to ask ourselves, how can we best serve? What role can we play and facilitate this change for the collective? And how this change is going to translate into changes in our personal lives as well. So information can erupt from our unconscious, from our dreams. That's Mercury in Pisces, right? Knowing without knowing. Active imagination. So we can do active imagination during this full moon as well and get a lot of insights. Mars is coming to square Neptune. So that Mars is square Neptune, what tells me as well is this isn't really a time to take massive action. This isn't really about putting the plan to practice. You know, all of these routines or whatever ideas come up for you during this full moon. It's not really about putting it to practice straight away, but to feeling what action, you know, so rather than having a rational plan that's like A plus B equals C, it's like it's more about sitting in meditation, knowing what your next course of action will be, but from this more Piscean level, from this more psychic level, from this, you know, sense what's raising to your awareness, sense what's coming, sense what this volcano is kind of showing you about your role, about your actions as well. One more interesting configuration of this full moon as well. So if you think about transits, there are like layers within layers within layers, right? So we've got the layer of the planets shifting signs. We've got the layer of that Mars square Neptune talking about actions, sitting with your desires. And we also have an emphasis in Aries as well. So we have Jupiter, Chiron, and Venus in Aries there. And so I think one thing that could be highlighted as well, that could be part of this volcanic eruption, is awareness around our individual wounds. The wounds on our egos as well, I think, with that Jupiter in Aries and the Chiron in Aries. You know, the things that we really want but we don't get. And sometimes not getting what we want is like the best thing that could happen, right? But there is something about that Jupiter, Chiron, and Venus in Aries that's also pointing or showing some of the individualistic wounds and sort of preparing us for when we have the new moon 2 weeks, which will be in Aries. So again, this volcanic eruption could be about that too, or could include a level of that, a level of like, how can I be effective as an individual? How can I be effective as an independent individual? With the Pisces, there is a strong sense of interconnection, of even like being merged and merging with others, being enmeshed in some situations with, you know, families or family members or the spiritual realms even. And that emphasis in Aries is saying, how can I separate? How can I effectively separate? Around that time we're valuing, around this time of the full moon, we're valuing more independence and autonomy as well. So how can we take autonomous action that will serve at the same time? So this is kind of the conundrum. This is the duality there. How can we feel and be aware of how much we're part of a greater whole, but is still holding on to our personal individual identities and desires? And how to put in place as well, how to put in practice those desires as well. So those are some of the key components and the key reflections for this full moon as well. I am wishing you all a very insightful and beautiful full moon, and very insightful, very with a lot of clarity. I think that's the word I'm looking for between these two tendencies. I am Fernanda from Hitchhiking Stars, and I will be seeing you soon.